There are two basic concepts you need to understand to employ the skills you're about to learn effectively. They are wire gauge and wire hardness. Wire gauge is a measurement of how large the diameter of the wire is. Remember that the lower the number, the thicker the wire. Conversely, the higher the number, the thinner the wire. Jewelry makers work in a variety of wire sizes, so the following are not hard and fast rules. As you begin to work in wire, you'll develop your own gauge preferences for various jewelry components. But to get started, here are some general facts and general guidelines. The most commonly used wires in jewelry making are gauge sizes 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, and 30. Again, this is not to say you won't work in other sizes, especially as you continue to develop your skills. Here are some general usage guides. For ear wires, use 20 and 22 gauge. Some people use 18, but I find that's much too thick. Some people like 21 gauge for ear wires, and I agree it's a good size. However, most vendors don't carry it. If you spot it though, give it a try. 20 and 22 are good sizes for jump rings. 14, 16, and 18 are good sizes for making clasps and neck wires. You'll use a variety of gauges for head pins, depending on the size of the drill hole in the gemstone. However, I find the higher gauges most useful for head pins, especially when you want to minimize the appearance of the finding, which is functional, not decorative. If you are using gemstones with large drill holes, then of course you'll use a thicker gauge. But again, don't worry now about what gauges you'll use for what applications. You will develop your own preferences as you progress. The important thing to remember is that the lower the number, the thicker the diameter, and the higher the number, the thinner the wire. The most familiar gauge is the B&S wire gauge, which can also be used for measuring the diameter of metal sheets. The B&S wire and sheet gauge measures from 0 to 36 gauge on one side with millimeter equivalents on the back. Beginners are frequently confused about the circle or round hole that is attached to the slots on the gauge. This is not for measurement. It's for ease in removing the wire from the gauge. The slot is where you measure the wire. Eyeball the slots to get close to the size of the wire you want to measure. If the wire can't fit through the slot or is too loose in the slot, keep moving up or down a gauge until it fits comfortably into the appropriate slot. That's your gauge. I'm not suggesting that you rush out and buy a gauge yet, although as time goes by you probably will want one. Wires do get mixed up, and even the best visual memory can't always make an accurate determination of exact gauge size. When you buy wire, you'll be asked whether you want hard, half-hard, or dead soft. These descriptions apply to how hard the metal is and have important consequences when you work it. Dead soft is the softest wire and theoretically the easiest to work. I've seen dead soft recommended for a number of jewelry projects, but it's my experience that when manipulated, it doesn't hold its shape easily. Often you'll see a recommendation to use dead soft wire in a certain jewelry application, followed by the admonition not to stress it. But jewelry is always stressed. It's handled, pulled, touched, etc. All that stresses the material and will push dead soft wire out of shape. Here I'm offering you my best opinion based on years of experience. I'd stay away from dead soft wire. Hard is the hardest wire. The problem here is that when you work hard wire, it will spring back into its original shape. In other words, it won't hold a new shape. worse, it can become brittle and break as you work it. If you have a torch, you can heat the wire and restore softness. This is called annealing. But many pearl and bead stringers don't work with a torch. Half hard is the way to go for wire bending projects. It will hold a shape and can be easily manipulated. Like any metal, half hard can become hard when it's worked. However, in the following, you'll learn to execute wire bending techniques quickly and won't have any issues. In general, you'll see 3 shapes of wire: round, square, and half round. Sometimes you'll also see twisted wire. Round wire is the shape you will use the most, although the other 2 can be used in various applications. Half round, as the name suggests, is domed on one side and flat on the other. The most common jewelry application you're probably familiar with for half round wire are ring shanks. A wedding ring is often just half round wire, sized to fit and soldered together. In wire jewelry, you'll often see half round used to bundle together or wrap other wire. Square wire can be used as a decorative element. It can be twisted in a pin vise, again to add a decorative element, and many people who work with wire prefer it for multi-strand necklaces because it will easily lay flat against other strands. Square wire is also used extensively in wire wrapping. Round wire, however, is what we use for clasps, jump rings, head pins, loops, and other wire findings. And these are the wire bending techniques you'll learn in the DVD. So that's it. Wire gauge and wire hardness. Now let's get started.